Welcome to Nuclear Grenade. Today we'll be talking about PC video games. As always, I am the Supreme Intelligence, the Great Wizard of Beyond, the Gaming Guru, the man with a 10-inch cock, Justin Land. And with me is my friend, Alexander Hayho, the man with a convex penis, the man with tits that are larger than double D's. He's the one and only man with an anal leakage problem. Welcome.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And let's have some fun. Let's talk about some video games today, y'all.
Yeah, that was an excellent intro. I applaud that. Very good.
It's for the ASMR fans. I want them to feel relaxed. I want them to come in having fun. We're gonna have some fun today, talking about some games.
That was a very gentle intro.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like the way I treat like a woman when I'm laying it down, licking those nips,
Oh
sucking on those
God!
tips.
Wow.
All right, let's start off with what games we've been playing. Hey, ho.
Oh yeah. Well, we've both been playing Path of Exile. We played it together for the first time last night. You were telling me that how important it is to follow a build guide, and I didn't believe you, and I ended up dying maybe 4 or 5 times. You died once. But I would say that my build is not destroyed yet. I just have to adapt to what I think I need as I play through the game, which right now, I just need more health, more maximum life, I would say.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, that stuff, your build won't work for the end game, but almost any build should be able to get you to the end game. And it's not that big of a deal because you get to keep the currency and stuff that you earn for the next game. Or, if you start a new character. So like with the next character, you could start out and have better items and have some currency to buy some new stuff with a better build that will be able to speed run you towards the end game.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. I'm excited about it. Once I see the end game, then I'll have a better idea of what I'm dealing with, I guess. Well, how about you? Have you been playing anything new?
Yeah, besides Path of Exile, I've been playing something called Eidolon. Eidolon, Legends of Eidolon, which is like a Steam game / phone game. Like a little MMORPG 2D side scroller. And it's pretty fun. You end up with like multiple characters and they all kind of set them to idle, or you can play active. And it's just a very interesting type of MMORPG. I haven't seen anything really like it before. It plays well on the phone. Great time killer. And then kind of funny too. It's got like a little bit of tongue-in-cheek humor. It's kind of making fun of itself and online games in general. And it's pretty fun, especially if you like kind of idle games where you don't have to pay attention or play consistently. Like you can do that, or you can get your characters doing whatever you want and then come back later and have made progress. So I really like that.
I kind of like that in video games where it's just, it's almost like setting like a fishing trap or some kind of trap where it's like, it's doing the work while you're not there.
Yeah.
So when you come back, it's like, oh, look at all this stuff I've done.
You've been playing anything else besides PoE?
No, I've been spending, I think I've gotten since our last podcast, maybe 30 hours in Path of Exile. So that's all I've been playing. I've been trying to get good at it and try to get far and beat it so I can actually be somewhat of, not an authority, but someone actually who knows what they're talking about. Maybe I'll make some videos on it on the Havoc Gaming channel. I know I'm, 8 years too late to be making new content. I think it came out in 2013. So,
Yeah.
But
Well, that's what's great about the game, though, because each new season is almost like a new release of it. And there's not a lot of videos on it, I think, from a newcomer's perspective. Like, I think a lot of the guys that make videos from it are guys that have played forever. for an authoritative look. But I think there's definitely like a market for videos from like a newcomer's perspective, because a lot of times I like to look at games where it's like a new person's perspective into this MMORPG, and you're like, I wonder what this person thinks. Like I watched that for FF14 before, seeing if I wanted to get into it, but didn't want to listen to someone who's played for 1,000 hours, because it's like they probably don't understand. Like they've already loved the game, they're not going to understand some of the drawbacks that like a new person might have coming into a game that's 5 years old with 7 expansions and everyone's like max level and knows what to do. Because there's like a barrier there. Like it sucks to be like doing a game, everyone knows what the hell they're doing, and you're like, did someone explain the most basic concept to me?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I was a little hesitant to get into Path of Exile. Because I know that there's people who probably got thousands and thousands of hours into that game, and who know like every little minute detail. And maybe, who knows, maybe a lot of those people are still learning, because games can be that complex. So it's kind of hard being the new guy, and and especially like if you want to make videos on a game like that. I think a lot of gamers who want to start YouTube channels, I think that's one of the things that prevented me from kind of starting out. It's like, I want to make this video, but I know I'm going to get ridiculed by people who've played more, who,
Nerd!
Yeah, who pulled your string, nerd?
You remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. That was great.
Just to cut you off, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
So far, I mean, I know like we were playing last night, which I'm sure helped a bit, put things in context, but like, what was your impression, like loading up, seeing that skill tree for the first time, looking at all these different pages of stats and stuff, especially as like, an older gamer who spent like your whole life playing video games, so you would think not everything's overwhelming to you, but then to see that level of complexity.
Yeah, so one of the things that helped break it down for me, when I first looked at the perk tree, I don't know, how many perks do you think there is? There's probably what?
I think it's like 1,000.
1,000? Yeah,
I think so.
It starts you off in the perk tree, so it's not like you can just start wherever you want. So like, depending on what class you choose, it's like, okay, here's your starting point, and then you can branch out from that point. And so that kind of helps narrow it down a little bit, like which path you want to take. But the more perks you get, the further into this massive perk tree you get, and the more options you kind of have available to you. And it is a little overwhelming, gameplay wise. It's very grindy, like old school, hardcore Diablo grindage, which is strange to play now, because like it doesn't seem like any games that ever come out anymore are like that. Like that seems like a very old school hardcore type of genre. So I do appreciate that, but people who like story, I guess, and cinema scenes and stuff like that might not appreciate it as much. It's really for the min-maxers, people who enjoy that type of thing.
I just looked, there's 1,325 skills. And that doesn't even count the skill gems. The one thing I'd say is, though, like they've made it so it's not really grindy to get through the story, and they've added a lot to story, and I think it's definitely interesting and fun. Maybe your first couple of playthroughs to actually read through and listen. Most of it's voice acted, I think, pretty well. And then, but the end game is really grindy. But the one thing I kind of like about it is if like you want, like sometimes I love a good grind. Like I'll like put on my podcast, put on like a Netflix show, and then just kind of do this repetitive grind to earn currency and blow through maps at the end game. And then kind of the fun is once you have like some cool stuff, like some great items or good currency to buy items, you could be like, all right, now I'm going to start a new character, which is kind of unviable without the currency to invest in it. But then I get to blow through the game really fast with this new type of gameplay and this new challenging style. Maybe it's like a faster mapper, or maybe now you have like a boss killer for when you get to the really end game bosses. So I think that's where kind of the fun comes in, where yeah, it is like a lot of min-maxing, but it is kind of like, now here's how my character's going to work. This character's going to do this. I'm going to plan out these things for this new run. And yeah, I think that's where like a lot of its appeal comes from.
Yeah, I would say that the more you learn, it's one of those games like the more you learn, the more fun it gets. And like it starts out as super overwhelming, and in a way, like it's almost so overwhelming that it feels a little shallow as a new player
Mhm.
coming to it. But like I know because I played so many video games, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of hours playing video games, that it will become more fun. Like the more I get into it, the more I realize what gems work with which gems and what
Mhm.
combos and what setups I like and stuff like that. But first you gotta play the game and you gotta learn, what's available to you, and that's just gonna take some time.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, there's just so much like you haven't even scratched the surface on, like with the end game maps and stuff, and then that whole skill tree. But yeah, I mean, to me, like we were talking about it last time, but like that is to me like one of the best parts about a game is learning. Like once I know everything about a game, I'm bored of it. I don't want to play it anymore. But with a game like this, it's always something new to learn or things you can tweak. Um, and like just like between crafting, map stacking, which maps to run, which maps to block out, which skills work best with which nodes work best with those. I mean, it's so much complexity that I mean you could just learn and learn and learn and like basically never learn it all. And especially with new every like 3 months or whatever, they do like a new reset and server run. And those always typically have new gameplay mechanics and new things to do.
Yeah, and from a developer standpoint, that seems like a lot of fun. A game that would be really fun to make. Um,
Mhm.
but I mean, that's a whole different discussion, I suppose.
Yeah, and like I don't know, just attack on that a little bit more though. It definitely this is kind of like a Stardew Valley type game where it's clearly someone really loved a game and the creators of that game weren't they just totally diverged from the original um, perspective or mission of the game. It's like Diablo 3, people like it, but it's nothing like Diablo 2. The art style is different. It's trying to appeal to a far more casual fan base, which is fine. Um, but people saw that and they're like, no, we like Diablo 2. We want to make it this way, and we want to make it better in these ways instead of, simplifying mechanics. We want more complex mechanics. We want
Yes.
multiplayer.
Yes.
And so it seems like it's cliche, but it seems like a love letter to that original genre. And I think if you look at the metrics, Diablo 2, or I mean, Path of Exile blows Diablo 3 out of the fucking water in terms of how many people are playing it, how many people have consistently been playing it. So, I mean, it just kind of goes to show you that Blizzard, their money managers think they're going in the right direction, but clearly they're not. Clearly, the appetite was there for a lot of people to prefer PoE.
Yeah, and I bet you we're gonna see kind of that trend reverse, the trend that we're on right now with games. It seems like everything's getting barneyed down, where all these
Yeah.
developers are making games way too friendly to play for newcomers and stuff. And for people who've been playing video games for a long time, I talk about this all the time. Depth, 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 and the perfect example of this is if you look at the Elder Scrolls series, right? If you look at Morrowind compared to even Skyrim, like
Absolutely.
Morrowind is so much more complex. Like the different things you can do in that game, the mechanics, way more complex. And then you get to Skyrim, and it's like you have 1/100th of the choices that you used to have in a game that's 15 years older, And like if people ask me, what's the best Elder Scrolls game, I'm gonna tell them Morrowind. It's the most hardcore. It's got all the mechanics, and it's just more hardcore gamer friendly, not barneyed down for people new to the series.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a trade-off, because obviously Skyrim is what propelled Elder Scrolls into the mainstream. Like Oblivion was fairly mainstream, but Skyrim is where like people's moms were playing Skyrim. People's grandmothers were playing Skyrim. And there's a lot to be said for that. There's a lot to be said about making some things that are tedious, simplistic, and focusing on other things. to me personally, I liked Oblivion. I thought that was a perfect middle ground between the two.
Mhm.
But at the same time, Oblivion added quest markers and go here, and it boils down to that type of gameplay. And maybe you need to have that if you want to sell a lot of copies to a game to get people's mothers in playing a game and get children playing a game. But I will say I have like a romantic attitude towards Morrowind, because when you had to read the book and you had to go find this and figure shit out, it was so much more satisfying. It was so much more fun. But there's a lot of games where I give me the quest marker, like a GTA game. Like I enjoyed the story, I enjoyed the gameplay, but I don't want to be sitting there reading a notebook like, oh, what street do I have to go on and which building is it? It's like, nah, give me the quest marker. I'm gonna run there. I'm gonna shoot the bad guys. I'm gonna grab the dough, and I'm out. So it seems like a very tricky thing to really balance those two things together and create something satisfying for the maximum amount of people.
Yeah, and you can't appease everybody. And really, I think true hardcore gamers, I don't know what population of gamers you would consider hardcore. First, I guess you got to define what hardcore is. Was that 30 hours a week, maybe? Playing games that are highly demanding of the operator, I guess you could put it. I don't know how would you
think of it
define
more
it?
as a mind. I think of it more as a mindset. If you're the type of person who takes games very seriously, takes your ability at playing games very seriously, really treasures your time in a video game, then I think you count yourself as a hardcore gamer. I mean, there's people who only play Rocket League, and they're hardcore gamers because they're like top level Rocket League players, and they spend all the time playing it, and they know the minutia and how to do all these crazy flips and spins. And they put more hours into that game than I put into any game in my entire life. And so that's a type of hardcore gamer, but they don't play other games. They don't care.
Exactly. Like what if you get someone?
It's a mindset.
What if you get someone who plays like 40 hours of Candy Crush every week?
Mm-hmm.
Like I would not consider that a hardcore gamer. You know what I mean? So it's not just time.
To me, it depends. I think it depends. Yeah, it's absolutely not time, but I think it depends on how seriously that person takes Candy Crush. Are they trying to be? I don't know about Candy Crush. Is there a league score? Are they trying to be the top of the league? Are they fighting other Candy Crush people? Then you could say they're hardcore.
Yeah, I guess I would define myself as a hardcore gamer because when I play a game and when I look at a game, I play it from like an analytical standpoint, kind of like a min-maxer, but maybe not that critical. Like I'm not going to sit down and crunch numbers on a calculator.
Mm-hmm.
But like when I play a game like Ark or something like that, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. Like I play it because it's fun, but like it's the time efficiency that I spend in the game and like how well I can perform what I need to do. Like if I go out to tame something, like I'm gonna go out and tame it. I'm not gonna screw up. I'm not gonna die. I'm not gonna, whatever. So like I guess it's like a performance gamer might be a good way to describe it. Like I don't care about story typically. And when you talk about waypoints, like for a gamer like me, I really enjoy that because I can just skip, the dialogue and all that crap. Like I don't need hints about where to go. I know where to go, and I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna do whatever I need to do and get it over with, so I can get to the next thing that I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's
it's a trade-off of atmosphere, though. Because
yes,
in
Morrowind,
the reason Morrowind sticks in your mind is because you had to read the journal. You had to figure stuff out. You had to walk there or take the striders. And so you really experience the game almost as if you were out stuck in the middle of the wilderness in this strange world, this alien world, and you're having to figure it out. And your clues are based on what people are telling you. So, and I don't think that takes, if you're into atmosphere, I don't think that takes away from being a hardcore gamer.
No, it's just a different type, I would say. Like, I guess there would be different genres. I guess if you really had to break it down, like different genres of hardcore gamers. Like, there's hardcore gamers who just spend a ton of time every week, maybe not playing competitive games or highly demanding games, but they spend a lot of time playing. So
they just hate life. They're like, I fucking hate the world. I have a shitty job. I don't have a girlfriend. I am only going to play video games.
Spend $1,000.
I get that.
I know.
I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. That's a hardcore gamer.
Yeah, real hardcore. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it's like, I'm a 16-year-old. I play, 5 hours after school, and I'm like super twitch reflexes, no scope 360, CS:GO, ultimate player.
Like me.
Yeah, that's a type of hardcore gamer. Yeah. Well, you'd get your ass handed to you against these new CS:GO players.
Back in the day, though, dude, version 1.6 and Source.
Dizzy?
Yeah, back in the Dizzy.
Yeah.
I was a
was a
formidable
1.6 guy.
monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, back then though, you could be like, not only was I young, so I had like the Twitch house, like younger people do have that, but like it was so unrefined back then. Like the internet wasn't what it is now, so people didn't have like the level of like studying and watching pros and knowing exactly which angle to take to pop out. So you could be good just by playing. Whereas now, like, the amount of effort it would take to be like a CS:GO player today and not just get killed every 5 seconds is way too much for me. Like, I don't have time for that shit.
Yeah.
I got a job, son.
Yeah, exactly.
Got bills to pay.
I agree with that. Like, and I don't think it's I don't think the theory is different from the older versions. Like, I think what it is map control. Like, you need to know where your enemies can be at what point in time. And you can get to a point where it's like 4D chess, where you know that your enemies know where you're going to be at what point in time. So then you can kind of be like...
They know you're going to be there.
So then you can counter-strike and, be somewhere else. Yeah. It's a perfect name.
Podcast over. Podcast over. Done. Okay, so we're still on games we played. What else? I did play something else. Oh yeah, so I played a little bit of Valheim. We talked about that last week. I'll skip it. Maybe we'll do like a deep dive when the new expansion comes out and talk about it more. But Subnautica Below Zero, haven't put a ton of time into it. I bought it when it first came out on what's it called?
Epic?
Early access.
Oh.
So early access, and I played it a bit here and there, just checking out as they added stuff. But this new one seems really cool now that it's like officially out. Subnautica is hands down the best crafting survival game ever.
Oh, that's debatable.
Those games, it's not debatable.
It's debatable.
Hands down. Like, if we anthropomorphize these people, basically Subnautica is like this 10-foot Viking with like a giant spiked bat of a penis and like an ass that's just rock hard, like it could literally crush your head with its ass cheeks, and giant veiny muscly legs that just stride across the map. And it's like huge Viking beard and long flowing Thor hair. I mean, that's like what Subnautica is. Everyone else is like a regular dude. Maybe he works out, maybe, but like, I mean, Subnautica dude, he's got lasers that shoot from his nipples. He breathes lightning. He spooges acid. The dude, it's the best. It's not even comparable. The atmosphere, the story, the fear-inducing aspects of the game, the alien world, the natural flow of the building and gaining resources. It's not too slow. It's not too fast. It really sets it up. The story isn't fed to you. You got to find it on your own and piece it together. It's a beautiful, amazing game. And this one's just like a new step in that direction. Maybe it's not quite as great as Subnautica, only because Subnautica was something that came out of nowhere. And like, I'd seen a few videos, got into it, and was just blown away, and so it's like the magic of seeing a brand new mountain over the horizon versus then seeing another beautiful mountain. But I've only gotten like a few hours in the new one. But they really taken some cool directions. They keep what's great about the original. The storyline is a little more, there's a little more there, a little more meat to it. There's NPCs there, so it's not quite as lonely as
really?
The first one. Yeah. I haven't found one yet, but I've heard there's a few NPCs in there.
So this is a completely new Subnautica game?
Yeah, Expand Alone, I guess.
Expand Alone?
Mhm.
Oh, I like that. Makes sense. So it's
Yeah.
Subnautica. It's DLC for Subnautica, the original, but it's a whole different map and different.
It's a new game, but it has you couldn't. It's a whole new game, new storyline, new map, but same world. It's just 2 years later. But there's enough of the original game in there where you could say it's like a Halo 2, where Halo 2
Yes.
wasn't Halo 2, it was Halo 1.5.
Yes. Okay.
And then Halo 3 was like the real jump. So it's kind of like that. Really pumped to get more time into it.
Oh, I'm excited about that now. Hell,
yeah,
I'm gonna play
it's-
that after the podcast.
Yeah, it's good. I'm really digging it.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm super afraid of underwater, as I touched on the last time, but for some reason, like, it just does the fear right. It does the leveling up right. Yeah, absolutely love it.
My big issue with the first one, and I guess it's a small critique, I would say. I really enjoyed it. You know, it's a beautiful game. It ran super smooth, you know, and it's a great game, hands down. But I guess there does come a point where it's like, I got to a point where I forgot what kind of what the name of the underwater vessel was, but
The submarine.
it
big
became
one?
too easy, and it just seemed like I was kind of wasting time. Like, time was just being wasted. It was just taking too long to progress in the game any longer, and I just got kind of bored at a certain point. I think that might have been like 50 hours in or something like that.
Did you get the robot and start deep diving into like the core?
I think I had just gotten the robot, but I
Okay,
didn't.
because that's
Yeah.
because to me, like, once you get the big vessel, it's like, okay, yeah, this is easy. You basically have a moving, awesome ass base. But then once you start to realize like where you can go, and you need to drop the robot to get to really deep, like, pressurized areas, and then you start finding new shit there. That's when it started getting cool again, to me, because it gets really scary down there, and you're finding like ancient like bases and shit, which is cool.
Okay, maybe I didn't do as much deep diving. I got the robot suit, and then I think I was just like, okay, well, I pretty much did everything that there is to do.
You need a couple upgrades to the suit before it can go really low into the core. And I will give you that. Whereas, like, I think that part of the game, there's probably like a 10 hours there where it slows down before you start getting to the next chunk of new gameplay and creatures and stuff. So they could probably even that out a bit, to make that maybe like a 5-hour thing without seeing new stuff.
Okay.
Because yeah, you start seeing new biomes and finding new stuff so regularly that when you do have that kind of like 10-hour gap, when you have like your first robot and stuff, where it is kind of like, oh, did I see everything? I'm not sure. And it does start to get a little bit stale, like all survival games.
Yeah. And you know, you brought up the point that you think that so that's called Subnautica Below Zero?
Below Zero.
Below
Yeah.
Zero. Yeah, I mean, there are games that are similar but as good, I would say. Like 7 Days to Die is a really good game. Ark is a really good game. I haven't played Rust, but I think that's kind of like the same deal, survival, crafting type of game. So there's other options too, but Subnautica is very unique.
But they're different games.
Yes, they're all unique. I would like to see some taming aspects in Subnautica.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, but I don't know how much they want to take, you know, from Ark. You know, maybe try to keep distinguished from that a little bit.
Well, I mean, I think you could have some stuff there. Especially like with the new, like, they have these little monkey dudes, which I fucking hate. They steal your items, assholes. But maybe you could like tame them or something. I think they have mods, or gonna have mods for this one. I'm not sure.
Well, I'm sure they will.
So who knows? You might be able to get something like that in there. But I also just appreciate that, unlike those games, like, those games are similar to each other. They're not similar to Subnautica. Subnautica took ideas from those and created an entirely new genre of game, a single player survival thing where the build up and the atmosphere and everything is very specific and unique and designed for a single player 50-60 hour playthrough, whereas those other games are all multiplayer, play forever, takes forever to do anything, grief other players.
You don't have to play those
and
other games multiplayer. I haven't played 7 Days to Die.
No, but they're not designed for a single player, and you can really tell that when you're playing it by yourself. You can play it by yourself, and you can have joy doing that, but you can really tell it's designed for multiple players.
It's definitely a lot more fun with multiple players, I would say. Yeah.
But I would say that's because they're designed for multiple players.
And I guess one of the reasons that might be is Subnautica, I would say, is more cinematic. It's just a more immersive feeling while you're in it. While with 7 Days to Die, it's not as immersive, but it's more action-packed, I would say.
Yeah. So, I mean, your opinion's wrong, but...
Well, that's the beauty of opinions.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they can be wrong.
Yeah, well, mine can't.
Whatever you say, man.
Mm-hmm. And then, so you didn't play anything else this week?
No, not really. Just Path of Exile. I mean, there's all the time in the world. It would not be enough to play Path of Exile, which I'm learning. So, no, I've just been grinding that game pretty hard.
Okay. Actually, I only played it a little bit this week, but I've played a lot in the past, and I'm probably going to play more. But Don't Starve Together. Yeah, just playing that. That game's amazing. That's a survival game. That's also totally different than those other types. It's like a cartoon style, kind of like a faux 3D, but 2D sprites and stuff. Very beautiful art, very unique, dark atmosphere, but also almost like a quirky fun, like what's it called? Nightmare Before Christmas type of Invader Zim type of humor, where it's like creepy, but artistic and also kind of goofy. And it's just so fun. I mean, they've added so many different add-ons, and Don't Starve Together is like the multiplayer version of it, and the things they're looking to add this year and have been adding is just like really awesome. It's really cool to see that game continue to grow and grow. Like Clay has to be like one of the best developers out right now. Oxygen Not Included is amazing. I like Griftlands, and just the support they give their games is it's awesome. And I love supporting them in that game. They keep adding new characters, new items, and it's an absolute blast. And every time I take a break and come back to it, I always feel like refreshed to really like start a new base and go out and see the new shit they added and fight the bosses and collect the goodies.
Yeah, so Clay Entertainment is the developer, like you said, and they also published it. I guess publishing is pretty easy nowadays, where they can just upload it to Steam, and Steam will make it a featured. They'll kind of market it for the developer. Where in the past, publishers were a lot more needed because you need commercials, you need ad space online, and all that kind of stuff. But it's nice to see developers also publishing their own games, I would say, because it's you want to see these developers keep as much money in their pockets as possible, because they're the ones doing the actual work. Publishers are just like, yeah, we'll give you some money, but we're also going to take all your profits pretty much. But yeah, it's got overwhelmingly positive reviews out of 167,000 reviews, and as far as I know, overwhelmingly positive is the top category you can have on Steam.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's above 95% or something.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And it was released in 2016, so it's not like an old game by any.
Together's not, but Don't Starve is. I think that came out like 2012 or something. So it was normally a single player game, and then they have a few expansions, and they keep working on both. I think the single player one got an expansion like a year or two ago, Hamlet, which wasn't my favorite, but it adds definitely a new, unique way to play. And Don't Starve Together is just really cool because it's made for multiplayer, and then they have a little bit of all the expansions in it. So it's definitely the way to play if you're getting into it and you want to play with friends, or even single player is really fun with that game.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things. Check it out. Look at the art style. It captivated me. And then the level of it seems like it wouldn't be like as in depth as like a lot of survival crafting games, and yet it just is. It's a lot better in many ways.
And it looks like it's out for pretty much any platform. It's not just a PC theme game. You can get it on PS4, Xbox, Switch. So
yeah, baby consoles if you're a baby.
hey, don't alienate half the customer base that we might have here.
Your baby.
We just lost the 5 viewers that we had.
Yeah, I'm gonna tie you little babies up into baby nunchucks, whack you around. I dare you play a system that's not PC. Guy that takes his video game consoles way too seriously into his 30s. No, PlayStation's the best, and I will fight anyone who says that.
You even lost your headphones over that.
Yeah.
There is something douchey, I would say. And I am a
character.
PC Master Race person, but there is something douchey, I would say, like when PC gamers kind of lord that over other people. But the reason, so I think the reason why PC gaming is the best is that when you get a console game, it almost about feels like, as a PC gamer, and you get a game for like the PS4, it feels like you're not getting the complete game. That's how I feel.
Training
Training
wheels almost.
Yeah, and it's because like on PC there's mods, like the modding communities like can add so much to a game, like Ark Survival Evolved. On my videos, you have no idea like how many questions I get, like, oh, can you do this on the PS4? Can you do this on the Xbox One? No, you can't. You can only do it on the PC. So that's why there's a PC Master Race, and that's why if you're a console gamer and you're hardcore, you might want to consider at some point in your life upgrading to PC, getting used to using a keyboard and a mouse, much more effective than a controller,
Or controller on your PC.
Or you can use controller on your PC if you want, It's just the most adaptable, versatile, high performance machine you can have.
Actually, let's touch on this, because it's probably people are sick of this conversation, but we haven't had it on this podcast yet, so we're gonna have it now. But like me, I've always loved video games. Like since I was a little kid, I love video games. I love all the video games. I wish I had all the video games at all times. Now that I'm a man, I can't afford all the video games. Like I'm not gonna get a PS5 until they're $300, 8 years from now, probably. Because I can really only afford one, and I put my money into PCs. And the PC, in the long run, might actually be cheaper. But in the short term, it's much more expensive of an investment to get something decent. Like it costs like $1,000 to get a decent computer that'll last you, 6 to 10 years of gaming. And that's a big initial investment, even though the games are typically cheaper. It's like whatever you can afford to play the games that you want. Like that's what it's all about. I think obviously PC gives you versatility. Especially access to amazing indie games. But, if all you got is a PS4 that your brother gave you, then fucking
that's badass.
Play the shit out.
Yeah, that's badass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's no shame in being a console player at all. But if you hear us,
you are just babies though.
And that's what I'm saying. Like PC Master Race, people are kind of douchebags, because there is that barrier to entry where a PC, if you want something that you can play modern games on, it's probably going to cost you around $800 at the minimum, which is twice the amount that you're going to spend on a modern day console. But I would say that I would see the future that consoles will actually maybe potentially be better platforms, because the thing that consoles have going for them, your console won't get a virus like your computer will typically.
Viruses still exist.
Yeah. Well, they shouldn't if you have the right software. But also, like with consoles, the hardware for them is meant to work well together. Where with a PC, you can have different hardware components that don't work well together. You gotta know a lot more about hardware if you're going to be a PC gamer. So that's another barrier to entry too. Consoles are just much more streamlined, much more easy, a lot less maintenance. And as the future goes,
is that true anymore though? I'm sorry to cut you off.
I think so.
It seems like with all the problems with the PS5 they've had, with like the hard drive issues and it going to the wrong hard drive.
That's a
and,
terrible mistake then, because that shouldn't happen with consoles.
Yeah, like the new Returnal game that came out, like they just went offline for like 2 days and then deleted everyone's like progress up to that point, and they were basically like, "Oh yeah, if you had this problem, just delete the game, reinstall, and no, you can't get your progress back."
So that's like an online issue.
Well, I also think it's like the hardware, as like these consoles have gotten closer and closer to PCs. I mean, they basically are just affordable PCs at this point, except for their closed off markets.
Yeah.
You're gonna run into that. But sorry, I didn't mean to overthrow your whole point, but you were saying.
No, you didn't. But yeah, like in the future, hardware is going to be. I think there was a time when people would say, technology is increasing 2 times every year, but that's slowing down. With hardware, you can't just keep getting 2 times better every year or whatever people used to say. It's slowing down. Like the hardware is getting really good now. So consoles are having a chance to catch up, I think, to PCs as far as the hardware arena goes. So performance-wise, I don't think there's going to be a huge difference in the future between consoles and PCs, or anything else. So I think maybe in 10 years, I bet we'll see an evening playing field where the PC master race won't have so much to lord over the poor console poverty-stricken players.
Yeah, those babies.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll push back though is I actually don't think that's true. I think consoles will die, and I think PCs, like fancy PCs, will also die, because with like things like the Stadia, the Nvidia gaming, streaming gaming, I do think we'll get to a point where streaming video games at high quality with high frame rates will become the norm, and you won't need anything more than an iPad and a fucking controller to play.
That's a good point.
Or off of anything. You could play it off of anything, off your goddamn phone. And so the future might just be streaming onto TV screens that are smart TVs or smart monitors, or very bare bones computers that don't need video cards in them anymore. As that technology gets better and better.
Yeah, and I've heard that as well, and that makes a lot of sense. All the performance will be handled on the server side, and everything's just digital. So all you need is a screen, which is a good idea. I don't, they'll need some kind of CDN type of network to be able to get that to all the players around the world without losing too much latency or having too much latency between the players. I guess that might be the big issue with that, but I'm sure that can be solved.
And internet. Yeah, and I feel like the big thing is that internet hasn't gotten that much better over time. Like only some places still have gigabit. Like we just got gigabit, and I just can't like afford the high levels of it. So, so I think that's like the real barrier to entry. But I think, in 10 years, 20 years, the landscape will totally be different.
Yeah. Well, what did we have 10 years, before now? That was back in what, the Xbox day? Like Xbox 360?
360.
Yeah. I guess that's not too terribly much of a difference between the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One. But
I actually don't think the jump's been that much over the last 10 years, because, I mean, if you look at it, GTA 5 is still one of the number one played games, making the most money. And that shit's like 8 years old.
Yeah.
I know Skyrim 5 is still one of the top played games. That shit's almost like 10 years. So I don't know. It's interesting. There hasn't been like these huge groundbreaking games in a long time. And until we see like the next generation, the next Skyrim, which might not even be Elder Scrolls 6. It might be, Elder Scrolls 6 might bomb, and it might be some other game that takes up that mantle or captures the imagination. But we just haven't seen any of those yet. I guess we do have things like, what's the game that all the children play? Fortnite.
Yeah.
So like maybe those are kind of the games of the future. But we just have to see.
I call them clown first-person shooters.
Yeah.
CFPS games.
Yeah.
The same with Overwatch.
Clown Fiesta shooters.
I'm not saying that they're bad games. I'm just saying like the cartoony style and like the not seriousness of it. With the Counter-Strike days back then, like it was serious. Like that's where pro gamers were typically born. And now it's Fortnite, and like a lot of Fortnite from what I've seen, it's just people dancing. These really stupid TikTok dances fucking piss me off.
Yeah. I think it's a fad, kind of like how DayZ was a fad back in the day. Whereas CS:GO is still not as popular in America, but in Russia, it's still like the #1 game. So there are games that like last the test of time. Where I think Fortnite's already kind of dipping. League of Legends, like MOBAs, had their day. They're still really popular, but they're much less popular than they were,
RTSs
4 years ago. Yeah.
What's the last time you've seen a AAA RTS game come out?
StarCraft 2.
I would say Command & Conquer Generals, I think, was a little bit newer maybe than StarCraft 2.
Was it?
I don't remember.
Yeah, that one sucked. That one was not that good.
It was one of the better ones since Westwood Studios had sold their company to EA. Once Westwood Studios sold to EA, they kind of went downhill, I would say. Because
well, that's what happened.
Iberian Sun was the best Command & Conquer game. Hands down. Like,
is there a single company that EA's bought that got better? Is there one? I don't think there's
LucasArts.
No.
No.
I don't think so. I kind of think of them as like a succubus that sneaks in the middle of the night while like the game devs are sleeping and just slurps out their soul.
Surely
and
you like
sneaks
money,
out,
don't ya?
They just leave like a zombie programmer who's like, must program Sims 4, must remove all fun features and sell back to the gamer.
Like all their employees are like brain dead at this point. It's just
It's like Blizzard. It's like anyone that has a brain is leaving.
Yeah, they start up their own company for God's sake. So, somewhere where they have some creative control, and that's the problem with EA and all these big publishers. It's like they steal the soul from these developers, and sucks the life out of the games.
That's just the problem with being a public company, to when you now are, it's not your customers that you have to cater to, it's now shareholders who demand profits every single year, which increasing profits to that level is always going to negatively impact a game, which means, and you're the CEO, you have to do this because the board can just oust you and hire a new CEO who will make the games bad to make them more money. Because these people don't have a long view. Whereas like game publishers like Bethesda was private until obviously they just got sold to Microsoft. But, and even then they were increasing profits at the expense of the games a bit. Overall, their games were typically pretty good because, they were privately owned. So they didn't have shareholders to worry about ousting your company out from under you. But, that's gaming. That's
business.
Life in the big city. Yeah. That's business. That's business time.
Shareholders in their skyscrapers spending money.
Fucking me in my ass.
Fucking gamers in their mouths.
Oh, it's too big of a car.
Okay. What's next?
All right. We've done a lot of penis talk. That's also, this podcast is like 80% penis talk.
We should have named it the Penis Podcast.
I think that's like the subtitle. Nuclear penis grenade.
Penis explosion podcast.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to the news here. So Fall Guys leaked their own source code onto Steam. Which is hilariously incompetent. I love it. Whoopsie! And what's funny about it is, because it's obviously an online game, the problem they're looking at is that this could lead to a lot more cheating, which I find is absolutely hilarious. Like, I haven't played Fall Guys, I've watched videos. It just seems like a fun game, to play with your boys or little kids, just goof off. And imagine someone's cheating at Fall Guys, like, I'm going to cheat and make it so I never fall off the platform. And I'm going to piss off so many 8-year-olds. Like, I just see like a 40-year-old neck weird. Yes. Yes, scream, you 8-year-olds.
Oh, no.
Oh, I'm making people so mad playing this stupid game. Like, that is a level of fucking autism. that I love. Like if you're a 40-year-old neckbeard out here with autism using cheats to fuck over people on Fall Guys, you are awesome, dude. Never stop being you.
Yeah, keep your incel bullshit to yourself, fucking losers.
Yeah, you better clown them so hard because this is the only joy you're gonna have in life. This is the only. You smell bad. No one wants to be around you,
except for people on Reddit. Where all your friends
Reddit,
are.
You're gonna be celebrated as a hero. But this is your time. This is your time to shine. Is pissing off children on Fallout or Fall Guys.
Nice.
Okay, so IBM agrees with Intel and TSMC that the chip shortage is not going to end anytime soon. If you're a gamer, a PC gamer, you know that we've been out of fucking video cards. It's been hard to get CPUs. It's been hard to get any PC parts since like last year, even before last year, actually. And so they think that shortages are going to continue at least until 22, 23, which is awesome. So kiss being able to get a video card at MSRP goodbye. You're going to have to spend a couple $100 more than it's worth if you want to upgrade.
Yeah, and I think a lot of gamers who are older like myself, we also participate in the stock market. And I've just got my asshole ripped apart because of that. I had a bunch of money in EV stocks, electric vehicle stocks, and one of the reasons why those just died was because the lack of computer chips available. So it hurts.
Yeah, absolutely used for everything and all, like almost everything electronic we have. So, and then all those companies are competing for the limited amount. So that means prices are going to go up and up and up. In fact, like my PC is a pre-built because I got it last year, and it was literally cheaper to buy a pre-built than it was to get those pieces separate. Luckily, with pre-builts, typically you get like a good CPU, a good video card, but then they skimp you on the power supply and motherboard. But luckily, I already had my power supply from before, so I just slotted that in. So overall, it's still good, but yeah, it sucks. Like if people want to really customize and do their own thing, it's literally more expensive than just buying a pre-built now. All right, and then so according to Amazon, or who does Stadia?
Stadia. I'm not. I think isn't that Microsoft? I don't know.
No. Google. It's Google. So according to Google, Stadia is alive and well. These people are brain dead, dude.
Well, isn't Stadia?
Stadia's not alive.
Isn't Stadia what
dead.
we were talking about with the server side performance and just streaming the game?
Yeah, but it's been out for like a year or two and has zero traction. It sucks. They're not working with other companies yet to like really push people towards Stadia. They closed down like multiple internal studios that were specifically going to design games for Stadia. It's just the dumbest thing to say. It's live and well. It's not even alive. So maybe say, oh, Stadia is not doing great, but we're going to continue to push and make it the best thing possible is probably the way I'd say it. But alive and well is just a joke. Like here's so basically they have a new marketing lead. So this is just marketing, blah, 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 gay talk, like corporate speak, mumbo jumbo. But we're continuing to make Stadia a great place to play games on devices you already own. I tell any non-believer to take notice of how we're continuing to put our words into action as we grow the Stadia Makers program and partner with AAA studios like Capcom, EA, Square Enix, Ubisoft, and more. Oh, the worst video game makers possible? Yeah, excellent. Oh, you're continuing to put your words into action by closing down all the studios that were making games specifically for Stadia? Brilliant. These people would literally be pissing into your mouth and be like, Google is not going to piss into your mouth in the future. We're going to come up with clean urine and distill our urine into delicious water as yellow liquid just splashing into your eyes and shit. These business people are subhuman alien lizards. But I mean, alive and well. This is amazing. Could Stadia do good in the future? Yes, I hope it does. I think the NVIDIA one's probably going to be the better bet. I think Microsoft is working on one. Probably be a lot better because it's Microsoft and not shitty Google. What has Google made that's good besides a search engine? They've bought YouTube and made it worse. They've bought things and made them worse. Have they ever bought something and made it better? Because I think all Google did was make a search engine. That's
I
it.
guess
I can't think of one.
Google Maps is pretty good, and Google Earth is
Okay.
kind of a nice thing.
Okay, okay. So adding on to the Google search engine, those things have been good. I like the Google statistics, so you can look up trends. Google Trends is good. But as far as like these other ventures that are outside of that, like it doesn't seem like they have a huge track record. In fact, the track record is closing things too early, and just not doing a very good job in the first place. But that made me laugh so much. Like, alive and well.
Yeah. Stadia. Like I've heard of them. I haven't even like went to see like what it's even about. I'm just not interested.
Of course you haven't.
Yeah.
Of course.
Not interested.
You and everyone else on the planet.
Yeah. Well, I'll wait until their technology gets a bit better before I even consider it.
Yeah, and they partner with better companies to put better games on there. But yeah, it doesn't seem like they have much. They're trying to charge full price. It's like, dude, you should be paying those publishers and then charging a lower amount to get fucking people on your platform. Because I'm not going to pay $60 for a game that came out 5 years ago just to play it at lower latency, you fucking imbeciles.
Yeah, well, like the idea is that's supposed to kind of be like the Netflix of video games, you know? And like the beauty of Netflix is that you don't have to pay full price to watch a movie. You know, so why should you have to pay full price to stream a game? You know?
We already have that. It's called Microsoft Game Pass.
Yeah.
It's an unbelievable deal. You're not going to beat that. And you know what? Microsoft loses money to get people into that system. And because they can afford it, to make a future where people want to be there. And that's what you got to do. Google, you're one of the biggest companies on the planet. Why don't you put your money and invest it into something? But whatever. I'm no businessman. I'm sure they know what the hell they're doing, even though it's clear they don't. And up next, this is actually some good news. So Blizzard gives up. So with the new Burning Crusade Classic coming out, they were charging people $35 to clone their classic character onto the new Burning Crusade game. $35 just to continue playing their character into the next expansion that came out 15 years ago. And people are pissed, like the E-Rage was out of control, the gamers are out firing their guns in the air and screaming, their moms are coming in the door being like, what are you yelling about? And they're, Blizzard screwing me again. Yeah. But all that E-Rage is paid off. We did it, nerds. We did it. We bitched and complained and moaned, and then they drop in the cloning fee to $15. A far more reasonable price. The price most people thought was a good amount. I don't play WoW, but the people that do play it, it's like, look, we don't want people to just clone whatever character for free, because then you could just move your characters around, affect guilds and all that. So it should have a price, and it seems like $15 is the one we all agree upon. And I just love it because anytime nerd rage gets listened to in these gaming companies, like, oh, maybe next time I fuck them in the ass, I should just use lube. Because every time I don't use lube, they get really angry.
That's the beauty of the free market.
Yeah.
You can't just charge people whatever you want to charge them. You can only charge people what they're willing to pay. And that's the way it should be.
Absolutely. And I feel like I'm so sad for Blizzard fans. I mean, imagine liking this company still in 2021 after they've just been on a fucking downward spiral for over a decade. And so anyone that still looks up to them and like thinks of them as a good company, it's just sad the way they get treated. The fact that they thought they could get away with this is proof of their disdain for you as gamers. But at least you won this battle. So good job, you fucking internet rageaholic Blizzard fans.
What do you think?
Got for the little
what do you
guy.
think is worse, EA or Blizzard?
I'm gonna have a weird take here. I think Blizzard's
Really?
worse.
Wow.
Because, and here's why. Because Blizzard or EA's always been bad. EA's been bad
true.
for like 30 years. They've sucked. Whereas Blizzard was a good company. People liked them. They made good games. They served their fans for a long time, and they built up a huge cachet. Whereas it's like if I'm walking down the street, right, and I see like a craggly meth head, and he's wielding a knife. He's looking out crazy. I'm like, I'm just gonna walk across the street and avoid that.
That's EA.
That's
Yeah.
EA. And then I'm walking by, and it's like this, suave dude. He's looking good. He looks like a gentleman. Like he got a little money. Like a nice fella. Maybe he's got a cross. He's Christian or something. And I'm like, all right, yeah, this is a nice guy. I'm gonna walk right by him. And as I'm walking by, he like spits in my face and starts beating me up. I'm like, oh, this guy's way worse. I thought he was my friend. I thought he was a good guy. And now I'm getting beaten. And I didn't expect it. Or like EA is like that girl, and she's a slut. She fucked all your friends, and that's why you're attracted to her. You're like, hey, what's up, girl? Let's go. And you fuck her, and then she never talks to you. And she's banging all your friends again. You don't care because you knew that about her. You went in with the knowledge, and that was the deal. Whereas you have this nice, cute girl, you talk to her, you start dating, and then 4 months into it, she seems like got everything you want, but she's been fucking your friend the whole time.
That's Blizzard.
That's way worse.
That's Blizzard.
Yeah, that's Blizzard.
Yeah.
Blizzard's cucking you. That's what I'm saying. Blizzard's cucking you, but EA is a shitty friend.
That's interesting. I like that take. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and then I guess to wrap things up, we can just start going into what's coming out. Talk a little bit about them, and wrap things up.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So these games already came out, but they came out this week. Mass Effect Legendary Edition, Remastered Trilogy. There's been a couple problems with it. A little bit of latency issue. People are getting pushed onto Origin, which we all know Origin sucks. We don't want to be on there. Fuck you, EA. But overall, I've heard some decent things about the remaster. It looks good. Mostly plays well. We already talked about it. Subnautica Below Zero, Underwater Survival, came out. On May 18th, we have something called Essays on Empathy. It's a collection of 10 story games. The graphics look, it's an indie type game, kind of like, 10 different little story, point and click adventure game that kind of convey messages that they want to convey. So that looks interesting if you're really into those deep thinking games or, hipster, I got something to tell type games, and you want kind of an array of them. That could be something to look into. May 20th, this one looks really cool. Mind Scanners, which they call a sci-fi narrative sim. It looks really cool. It looks kind of like a Papers, Please, but in like a cyberpunk universe. And you have like a few mini games. You got to kind of decipher what the other person's thinking or analyze them. The graphics look a lot like Papers, Please, except as you would imagine with cyberpunk colors and weird looking dudes, but all in that kind of 8-bit style.
Yeah, it looks like a Super Nintendo game.
Yeah. And it's got seems like it'll have puzzler elements to it. And so that one looks really cool.
They call it, they're saying it's an adventure RPG simulation strategy, which are RPG simulation and strategy are like three of my top favorite genres. So
Sure, but at this point, they're just literally throwing everything in
I
there.
guess. When you look at the trailer, it doesn't look like it's any of those.
Yeah, I mean, it might have RPG elements, like, oh, you can upgrade one thing. It's an RPG now.
Yeah, that's fair.
But either way, it looks really cool. This next one, of Bird and Cage, which is described as a heavy metal interactive fiction, and apparently it's a metal album, like heavy metal rock and roll album. That's over a 2-hour interactive gameplay thing. So it's probably gonna suck. The music might be good, but I think if I'm making like an awesome metal album, I'm probably not making some shitty video game to sell it. And if I'm making like a good video game, I'm probably not using some shitty heavy metal to sell it. So who knows? It could be good, could be a great album, but it's an interesting thing for sure. It's an interesting way to sell an album.
I bet.
So we'll have to see.
bet that's not going to do very well because A, you have to like the music, and then B, if you even do like the music, well, now you gotta be interested in playing a game about it. On Steam, you can buy both the game and or the soundtrack separately. Looks like.
Yeah. So I could see some people trying this if you're a super heavy metal guy and you want to like see something, or if you're just interested in what this is, because it is interesting. Like, I've never heard of anything like this before. It seems like a really unique way to market an album. But at the same time, I feel like if you have something that's that good, you're probably not doing it this way.
It's gonna flop.
Yeah, definitely.
I bet my bottom dollar, dude.
Plus, how many people like metal? I mean,
I do.
Kind of like,
Pantera.
you really love it. I kind of like it, but most people I know aren't like, they don't give a shit.
Well, even then, like, Pantera is my favorite band, but I don't like just Pantera. But I just don't like any band, you know. It's just like Pantera, and that's pretty much it for metal. Slayer's good too, but they have a lot of stuff that's just like too much guitar and it's just kind of annoying.
Sure, yeah. And then finally, May 21st, we got Knockout City, 3v3 dodgeball action. This actually kind of looked cool. It's got like your kind of regular like Nintendo style art style to it. It's a dodgeball game, but like you have like hang gliders to kind of do the flying Fortnite style thing.
What's it called?
Knockout City.
Knockout City.
And one of the most interesting things I think about it is if you kind of look at it as like a third-person action shooter like thing, it has like a unique style because you're not just throwing the ball to hit people like you would with like a shooter, but you can actually pass to your teammates and hit people from behind. You can catch it if people throw it at you. So there's some interesting things here, but it doesn't seem like there's enough there to be that interesting. I could see it being fun for like 2 hours. Hope I'm wrong, but it just doesn't look like something that would hook me or have like a big following that would really catch on.
It kind of looks like Splatoon.
Yeah, I had a little bit of that thought.
And the publisher is Electronic Arts on that, so I would expect kind of a generic type of game. You know, that would do well with, you know, maybe younger kids, I would say.
Yeah. And the team aspect of being able to pass the ball, to attack from different angles is cool. But yeah, I don't see it being a huge success, but we'll have to wait and see. All right. Do you have any final thoughts there, Heiho?
Yeah, you know, I've been doing these polls on my YouTube channel in my community tab, and people actually answer them, and it's kind of interesting. For example, let's see here. If you could only play one video game genre for the rest of your life, what genre or cross genre would that be? And on here, 78% said RPG / open world, 12% said first person shooter, 7% said simulation / strategy, 2% said real time strategy, and then 2% said other. So RPG open world seems to be pretty hot, but I would say that on my channel, my community is kind of biased towards RPG open world since a lot of my subscribers came from ARK, Survival Evolved. So.
In Raft, your Raft videos did really well.
Yeah, I've gotten maybe 100 subscribers from my Raft videos. so we could talk about that. But actually, I wanted to.
What's your answer though?
My answer for that, I would say RPG open world.
Okay.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm simulation strategy.
Simulation strategy. You know, I would have guessed that for you actually, because I know the kind of games that you play, and that makes sense. So here's one that's really interesting that I'd like to talk about. So, who feels post-game depression? For example, let's say you put 500 hours into an ARC file, then you get bored, then stop playing, and then you go through a period of what seems like mild depression. And 22% said, I never feel depressed after I stop playing a game. 7% said, I sometimes get depressed. 54% said, I almost always go through a depression stage. And then 13% said, it depends on how long I played the file. And for me, that would be my answer. It depends on how long I play a game for. And depending on how long I do, will affect the depression that I feel after I stop playing.
Man, video game people are some sad motherfuckers.
So I'm guessing you never feel depressed after you stop playing a game?
I do, but I'm also like I'm bipolar, so that's a type of depression. But goddamn, it's so funny to see those kind of numbers. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously probably the people that went with the 54%, they probably, if you analyzed them more, probably would say specific games, because who the fuck plays a game for 2 hours like I don't like this and then feels depressed because they can't play it anymore?
Yeah.
But I will say there's definitely certain games in the past. It doesn't affect me as much anymore because even though I still love video games, you know, I don't have time to play them a ton. I don't have time to put tons of hours into them, and I have to be more selective.
Your addiction is monitored.
Yeah. I can only get one dose of heroin a day, you know, as opposed to being able to just fucking wrap up the vein and fucking shoot all the time.
Yeah.
But definitely certain games.
Yeah, Arc is a big one for me, man, because like you just imagine that first time you start an Arc file, you know, you wake up on the beach on the island, and then 500 hours later you're on Ragnarok. You got a bunch of gigas that you've bred. You've killed a bunch of bosses, and it just starts getting kind of monotonous and grindy and boring, and then you stop playing. And then you have this hole in your life and that's missing, you know, where you used to log on to Arc and you'd have the stuff to do and be fun. And then like just one day, all that effort, all that time and thought and care that you put into that file is just gone. It's obsolete. You don't enjoy it anymore. And yeah, like I go through a mild depression and probably takes me a couple weeks after I stop a file to recuperate from that. And in programming, they call it dark programming, or evil programming, whatever you want to call it. And it takes advantage of the reward systems that people inherently have in their brain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, triggers dopamine.
Exactly. Yeah. Like pop-ups in games, like especially mobile games, are all psychologically preying on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's definitely interesting. I mean, I'm sure I could think of some games where I get kind of bored of them and I kind of feel like I wish I was still into this game because I like it a lot, but I'm not.
Path of Exile.
But, yeah, but see, Path of Exile, I never felt that way because I'll go and I'll put like 100 hours into, you know, a new season, and then I'm like, okay, I'm done. It doesn't bother me because I know I'm going to play in a couple seasons. You know, I might not play the next season, but it's one of those games I know I'm always going to go back to. Like Civilization's my favorite game of all time. All the Civilizations have been since 3 was the first one I played.
Wow, that's old.
And I've put probably 10,000 hours over all those games. And yet, when I go on like every couple years or every year, I'll probably go and put 60 hours into a Civ. Then I don't feel bad afterward because it's like, oh, I'm just going to play it next year, or I'm playing in a few months, or maybe 2 years, whatever I feel like it. But it's always going to be there. There's always going to be a Civ for me to enjoy.
I would say that might be a little bit different though, because Civ 6 is really, it's like a board game where there's a beginning and then there's an end, and usually that takes about I don't know 5 hours or so to get from beginning to end, depending on what your settings are. So like, you don't have that built up amount of time and effort in a single file that goes to waste. I guess.
Yeah. And my skills translate anytime I play it. Everything I learned.
Yes.
Oh, actually, I do have one though that really sticks with me, and this one I'm still kind of depressed about. Star Wars Galaxies.
Interesting.
So like when a game doesn't even exist anymore. Like I love Star Wars Galaxies because it was like one of the only MMOs where you could build your own house and sell your own items, and it was very player-driven economy. And you had these different planets, and there were not even Jedi in the game at first. You could learn all these different classes, and there was so much to it. And it took a lot of like effort to get things done, and there was like real value to being good at stuff and having like a high level character. And then when they added Jedi, it was cool because it took you a long time to become a Jedi. It was not easy. And you had to master like 5 different skills at random assigned to you by a holocron, and you had to find these secret holocrons. So to be a Jedi took extreme amount of effort, and they were super powerful. And yet you had a bounty on your head if you were a Jedi. So not only are you super OP, but all of the bounty hunters are trying to kill you. And I was pretty sure it was like a permanent death. So it was just like insane, cool mechanic. And then they just made it so anyone could be a Jedi. And then everyone stopped playing the game, and then it just died. Servers died.
Dang.
But I always miss that time in the game. And there is a little bit of depression there not because I got bored of it, but because it was taken away. They over tinkered with the game and made it worse by trying to make it appeal to everyone, and then it appealed to nobody. So I'd say things like that, where something that you love gets fundamentally changed out from under you, which happens to a lot of gamers with a lot of games. I will feel a bit of depression there. But yeah, but I rarely spend enough time on one game. Like I'm kind of ADD, so I switch around.
That's probably the healthier way to play games. I'm more of a binge player where I like to select one game and really go into it, which isn't great for talking about different video games in a podcast. But since it is partly my job, I'll do research about different games. But like right now, Path of Exile is that game where it's like I'm not going to play anything else, because if I play something else, it's going to feel like I'm kind of cheating on my time that I could be used to progress further in PoE. Yeah. You laugh, man. Binge addiction.
You're the fucking biggest nerd I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, and what's weird is I don't really look like a nerd. You know what I mean? So I think people would be surprised at how nerdy I am. Like I'm learning computer programming and shit.
Like I'm cheating on my video game.
Well, not cheating on an emotional level, but cheating on a performance level, I guess.
I don't care. It's so funny to just even say that. And mean it.
Yeah, I mean it. 100% I mean it.
Oh my god. So that's Nuclear Grenade. We're going to wrap it up. Excellent talking to you guys. Do you have anything to say before I give out the ending script there?
No, I think we're good.
All right. So guys, please like, subscribe, comment. And the new episodes come out every Monday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Thanks so much for joining us, and see you next week.